Hey, welcome on back to The Reckoning. Into the second segment we go along. I've got Representative Bill Hardwick on with me. He is in the Missouri House, currently running for the 16th State Senate District. And we've talked with a couple of the other folks in that race. Of course, a big one coming up here on Tuesday for all of our folks down in the 107.3 listening area. So we'll get a little bit of a chance to catch up with Bill here and find out his pitch for your vote in Missouri's 16th Senate District. Bill Hardwick, thank you for being on with me, sir. How are you?
Hey, great. Good afternoon. Thanks for having me.
I'm very glad to do it, and glad to have this. One of our listeners down there put it on my radar, said, hey, you got to talk to the folks in the 16th District. There's a lot of mailers, a lot of information going on around down here. So I'm happy to dive in and make sure that we get it covered. But, of course, you are currently serving in the State House, so you've been involved in some pretty big stuff that's gone on the last couple of years in particular, from the redistricting, the new state map, all the way to our amendments we're looking at on the ballot this year. But you're looking to move up into the state Senate. What in the world wants to possess you to go into the Senate, which everyone complains about? I say that partially in jest, but what did lead you to this run?
If that's what everybody complains about, and that's what the problem is, I think it's where somebody who cares and wants to change things should go. And you mentioned a lot of the big issues in the House. We had COVID a few years ago, the vaccine mandates. We've had big fights over the Second Amendment Preservation Act, over redistricting, over a lot of conservative priorities that conservatives in the House passed and fought for and championed. And they go to the Senate, and it seems like that's where they end, right? There's not enough people in the Senate who are principled conservatives who want to stop the legislation that takes away people's freedoms and stop the bad legislation and champion the bills that protect people's liberty. And that's kind of what I'm about. It seems like that's where the problem is, like you said. And that's where people who want to make a difference should go. And that's me.
Well, you certainly have the background of a fighter for it. I mean, you're Rolla, Missouri native, but Missouri born and bred and educated. Of course, you got your Juris Doctor from University of Missouri Law School. You were a state and federal prosecutor, 24 years in the U.S. Army and Missouri National Guard, engineer officer basic course over there. You've done a lot of problem solving and a lot of going after problems. So in this 16th district race, what would you say differentiates you amongst your competitors as the choice for people in the 16th district? Because obviously we are looking for conservative champions on the issues, especially in the Senate, where there is so much, so many shenanigans and late hour things that everyone complains about. What differentiates you and makes you the best choice?
One thing is I listen and I care about the constituents of the district. So even out door knocking, people have issues, they got problems. We want to take action, solve, and follow through. So if they want somebody who's effective in addressing the problems of the communities in the 16th district, that's me, I think, 100%. But also, I encourage people to look at the fights we had in the House, the fights over COVID, the Second Amendment, over the big omnibus bills that took people's freedom away, over attacks on homeschooling, over attacks on local public schools. And just I encourage people to look at the record and see who got on the floor and debated, who tried to fight off the bad amendments, who championed the bills. And if the record in the House is any indication of what kind of senator you'll be, if I get elected, you'll have a principled conservative who stands their ground, who solves problems, who wants to have a government that works for people, not the other way around. I want our government to be competent and to serve the people, but I want to make sure that our conservative values are well represented and represented strongly and with effectiveness. So, I just encourage people to go back and look at the record of all the candidates. Look at the voting record. I've got a pretty conservative voting record. Fantastic voting record. I vote with the conservative position all the time. I vote with the Constitution. I vote with the people. I vote for religious liberty. Most of my bills, most of the amendments I file, those are amendments geared toward restricting the power of government and giving power and freedom back to everyday people. To me, if we don't have elected officials who are focused on upholding the Constitution and making sure people's freedoms are protected and making sure that government's operating effectively and competently for people, that's what we should have. And if we don't have that, then I think we're in for the wrong reasons.
Well, let me ask you this. When it comes to some of the future policy upcoming, of course, you're looking to make a move here from the House to the Senate chamber. One of the big things, of course, on everyone's mind as we are weighing this vote over Amendment 4 and Amendment 5, really 5 is what I'm honing in on here. So much of that, if it passes, or quite frankly, if it doesn't, either one, a lot of the burden comes back to the legislature to begin crafting really what could be called a revolutionary change to the tax policy in Missouri. Where do you fall on that one? What plan do you see, or what parts of a plan would you like to see put together, maybe if given the opportunity with Amendment 5, or in spite of it, if it doesn't pass, but you go through to the Senate, what are the things you would like to see move forward that would be better for Missourians, for Missouri taxes, and for the business climate in this state, as well as the individuals and their take-home pay?
Well, first, with respect to Amendment 5, if it passes, and we should implement it in a way that doesn't make life harder for people, that doesn't give the legislature free rein, that doesn't raise prices. I've said I'll filibuster tax increases on food, on basic necessities, on healthcare, on agriculture, on housing, things people need. I think that's been my approach for a long time too. Cut taxes, but don't make life harder for people.
Mm-hmm.
But to your point, you've also mentioned, I get questions every day about personal property tax and about real estate taxes and how they're just kind of growing out of control. And people who are on fixed income, senior citizens, a lot of retired veterans in my district, they feel that squeeze of having a fixed income and their property taxes are going up every year. So we got to do something to address that. Personal property tax, we're one of the few states that has a personal property tax, a real estate tax, a consumption tax, an income tax. We have people that are taxed every which way, and that puts a squeeze on people, makes life harder. So I think we can address that. I think we got to think about how we're funding things, but more importantly, I think we got to think about how we're cutting things, have a balanced budget, and find the programs that aren't really helping people, find the programs that there's contracts and there's budgetary pet projects to individual corporations that are not benefiting the state of Missouri, and start cutting back on that. So first focus on cutting, first focus on balancing the budget, and then let's focus on giving people tax relief and making life more affordable for people. I'm somebody who grew up from a working class background. Most people in my district had the same background I did. And, it's hard for people to pay their bills. A lot of people are working multiple jobs, and they feel like, politicians, the political class doesn't really care about them. So I think it'd be a big change to have somebody who just fights for them and champions that and just wants to make life easier for people. Somebody who understands how tough it is to raise kids in this environment, how tough it is to pay bills, and just somebody who's just going to be tough and stand their ground for those people.
I heartily agree. And I would like to get your perspective on Amendment 4, because if I'm recalling correctly, looking back at your voting record, when this originally came through last September in the special session, HJR 3, this Protect Missouri Voters Amendment, which we know as Amendment 4 on our ballot, you were a no vote on that as it came out in its perfected state. Do I remember that correctly?
Yeah, there was a group of kind of hardcore conservatives like myself who voted no.
Okay. And
why? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, does that lead you to encourage folks on a no vote on that? You wanted to go a different direction?
Well, what I encourage people to do on the amendments, as I always have, is make up your own mind about what you think's right. There are principled conservatives who know that we need initiative petition reform, and we do. Sports betting should not be in the Constitution. 43 pages of marijuana regulation should not be in the Constitution. Abortion should definitely not be in the Constitution. So we need to reform the process so we're not having this junk that should be in the Missouri Constitution. And some of my best friends in the House, some of the best conservatives I've ever met, are big champions of Amendment 4, and I respect and hear that position. Mm-hmm. One of the concerns I had was if we close the door to amending the Constitution, like you have to go through the first district in St. Louis to amend it for the people, and there's gridlock because of special interests in the legislature, I'd be concerned that we got stuck with abortion on demand in the Missouri Constitution. So one of my approaches to it is I think we need to address that first. Get abortion out of the Constitution, make Missouri a pro-life state, have a viable way for conservative grassroots to be able to amend the Constitution going forward. But I do think we need initiative petition reform. So I voted for the 6-8 congressional districts, 5-8 congressional districts. I voted for 55%, 57%, 60%. I think I'd be somebody who pushes and advances initiative petition reform. But I think we got to do it in a way that makes sure that we have a way to get abortion out of the Constitution, and a way that the conservatives have a way to rise up and amend the Constitution if the governing class, the political class, if Jefferson City is not responsive to the people. I think that's important too.
Yeah. I agree. I'm one of the folks as well who would have certainly written this differently, but also certainly wants to shut off how initiative petitions have been so badly abused to abuse our Constitution. So I appreciate that perspective. I'll leave it with this. Your final pitch, at least to the folks able to listen here today. August 4 coming around on Tuesday. They're walking into the ballot box. They're making their final notes this weekend and looking up and down the line. Your final say on your priorities and what you want to do in the Senate, why they should cast their vote for you.
I just want people to know that every negative mailer is a lobbyist I stood up to at some point or another. So if they want somebody to shake things up in Jefferson City, look at who the most resistance Jefferson City is putting up to somebody going there. And that's somebody who I stood my ground, stood up for homeschoolers, for religious liberty, for people who didn't want to take the COVID vaccine, kind of like nobody else. So I want to change things in Jefferson City. and restore power back to the people. And I want our communities to function, be safe, and I want people to be prosperous at the family level. So I want you to send somebody who's a conservative and a veteran and a fighter and a stalwart, to the Senate. I think that's what the people of our district should have and deserve, and that's what I embody. So I just encourage everybody to vote for me. The election's on Tuesday, early voting today and Monday at your local county courthouse, and appreciate everybody's consideration.
Absolutely. Bill Hardwick, running for state Senate. You find him online, billhardwick.com. He's also out there on Facebook, X, Instagram. Look for him there. Bill, we thank you for your time for a few minutes here, giving us your record and your pitch, and we wish you all the best on Tuesday, sir.
Hey, thanks for the time. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Folks, we'll be right back. Last half hour of The Reckoning on the way.